All right, welcome back to Live from Drew's House, episode, I don't even know whatever this is. All the days are running together, but my name's Drew Moholland. Afternoon Drive. This is my wife, Sarah Conway. How are you, Sarah?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. How's hunker down life?
It's just living the dream.
Fantastic. Fantastic times. Coffee mugs today. You got what?
New York.
Oh, very poignant.
Starbucks.
New York City.
Yep. We like Starbucks and we like New York. So.
Thinking about them, of course, these days. I have the A cup.
That, I believe, is also from your cousin Kaylee. We've done
Kaylee again?
Yeah.
She's big on coffee mugs.
Yeah.
Very generous with the coffee
She's
mugs,
good at
Kaylee.
coffee mugs. We like coffee mugs.
That's an A for Andrew, right? Your S for Sarah?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know. We should have done the matching ones.
Maybe we could plan that someday.
Next time.
Bad producer work. Hope you're all having a good day out there. Another edition. It was good to have Alex Anthony on there last show. Hope you enjoyed the music show a little bit. Today is also music in kind of a, it's definitely music. TJ Connelly is going to be our guest here in just a few minutes. You know who TJ Connelly is, do you?
I forgot who you told me was going to be on today. Now I remember. There
you go. So TJ is he's the DJ. He's the guy that you hear playing the music for Red Sox games, keeping us entertained. He does the Patriots, Bruins. I think I got them all, maybe more. He's a man of many hats. But, he does all those games. Red Sox in particular. I'm a big baseball guy. I'm a big sports guy, but nothing I like better than a night at the ballpark, which I'm really missing these days. Sarah knows how much I'm missing that. Mm-hmm. But he is like great with the baseball. Something about the music and the baseball really works. I remember being at a playoff game and, he just has a great way of like heckling the pitchers who are the opposing team who are getting knocked out of the game and all that. He's really made it quite the thing, and he can even interact with them on Twitter during the games, which he does sometimes. So we'll be joined by TJ in just a couple of minutes. I have a lot of questions to ask him about. Maybe even Sarah has one today. We'll see. Probably.
We'll see. Did I prepare for this interview?
Well, got to be prepared here,
Maybe
Sarah.
someday.
What was new with you this week? Anything interesting? Dogs were kind of bad last show.
The dogs were bad last show. They were really bad all week.
Yeah, because you're working from home.
Yeah, they bark the whole time. I leave the back door open so they can go outside. We have a fenced-in backyard. They can come inside. They have the lay of the land, and they still manage to bark and interfere with every video conference I have. So.
Do you find they don't like being outside as much if we're not there with them?
They're very needy.
Mm.
Extremely needy dogs.
Yeah.
But
I find myself looking at my beard a lot in the shot.
It's very full.
Are we still doing this? Should I lose the beard, you think? Clean it up?
I think it's entertaining, if anything.
I don't even know how to take that. I guess we'll let it go. Who am I trying to impress? My boss is like, shave the beard. Just kidding. She doesn't say that. Yet. Hello to all the people back at the station too that are making this show go on. Sarah Hayden, the boss. Caleb Noble is doing great work. I know he's kind of pulling extra hours, learning how to get some of this digital stuff up. It's a whole new ball game for a lot of us. I kind of have the easy part. I just talk and they kind of make it work, and they throw this thing out on the radio, on TV, and on the live stream here on YouTube and however you're watching it. So big thanks to Sarah, Caleb in particular. I know Tyler Newfell's back there working as well. And pretty much we got a big crew back there at the station. So again, I'd like to thank them as much as possible. Big thanks to all the frontline workers. I guess we're in the surge now, right? This is the surge. Some of the states started to go back. A few of them, government open. I don't think we're going to be open here for a while, though. Would you agree?
I think we have a governor with the sense to not open yet.
Whoa, don't get too political now. We like the governor, though. He's a Swampscott guy, North Shore guy. Mm-hmm. Or she's actually Carl Stevens, who we had on last week, is from Swampscott. Knows the governor a little bit. I think he mentioned that, didn't he? That he.
Yeah, he did mention it.
There's always a police officer out there now.
They used to do some kind of kickboxing classes or something together.
Yep, that's right. See, there you go. I get the questions. You get the memory. Always listening. Good for you. But I guess I will get out of the way. We had some snow there the other day. That was a little bit crazy. April in Massachusetts. Crazy mid-April snow. The dogs seem to like that, though. I took them outside for a little bit, and they enjoyed it. So, I don't know. That's what you get in New England. I guess that's not that unusual. A little bit of a snowstorm. It was gone quickly. 60 degrees the next day or something. But anyway, why don't I get out of the way? We'll bring in TJ. You want to do that? Want to bring TJ in?
Yeah.
You have anything else to say before we bring TJ in?
I don't think so.
All right. Let's do that. Now to our guests. All right. Welcome back. TJ Connelly, our guest today. TJ is the, you probably know him best, DJ for the Red Sox, Bruins, Patriots. Am I missing anything there, TJ? Any other sports teams? Or
sometimes the Revolution.
Sometimes the Revolution.
Yeah.
Right. Very
I'm
good.
not like the DJ, but I do some of their games.
Very good. All right. This is my wife, Sarah. You guys just met before we came on.
Hello.
This is our kitchen. Hope you enjoy the backdrop.
Yeah, nice wine rack.
And thank you. Yes. We actually just shifted the shot, and that's the first thing that Sarah noticed. You can see the wine rack now.
Yeah, it's nice.
Well stocked. Gotta be in
depth. Yeah.
And you have one of the more, that is a radio-friendly set right there. Nice microphone, the bookcase. You are looking good over there.
I am a huge book nerd. That's not even the beginning of how many books there are back here. But,
wow.
Yeah, it's good insulation.
Good for you. Well, how's the hunkering down going for you?
Good, I guess, all things considered. My girlfriend is a nurse practitioner at Boston Healthcare for the Homeless Program.
Oh, wow.
So that is a very stressful part of our lives. But then I have decided to respond to that by sitting in the basement and making radio 5 days a week. So I guess we're doing okay, all things considered.
What's been the toughest part for you? I mean, obviously there's no games. Is that, has this become obviously you don't love that, but you getting through okay?
Yeah, pretty well. Well, so it's obviously I'm effectively laid off or furloughed or whatever the words are from all of the sports teams because there are just no sports games. And right off the bat, a couple people said to me like, oh, you should play music and make radio and whatever. And I said, okay, I guess I'll give it a shot. And then the first demo show I did, 50 people showed up. And so it's really, I haven't almost given that much thought to the sports because it's been 5 days a week, day in, day out doing it. Like I'm actually busier now than I was, if that makes sense.
Wow. Yes. Well, that's good. We found a way to stay busy.
I'm lucky, I don't know what I'd be doing if I wasn't doing it.
I hear you. You know me, I'm a big baseball guy. I'm always texting you from the stands at Fenway when you impress me or whatever, which is actually, let's talk about that for a second. I mean, that has, you have literally become a part of the Fenway experience with the whole music thing. I mean, you are great at it. I'm sure you're great with the football and all that stuff too. But for me, it's the baseball passion, and for some reason, it just all kind of blends together with the whole experience. I'm sure I'm not the first person to say that to you. I
mean, it's very kind. Thank you. You are not, but it is always nice to hear.
The work that you put in, there will be subtle things that I'll be like, I know why he's playing that, 50 years ago or what. I mean, you put it in some legit work to this. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a vocation. It just sort of happened and then it became my life's work in a lot of ways. And then that has spread out to other sports. We came up with a term, providing alternate color commentary through music, which I thought was a pretty neat little encapsulation of, if you're sitting and enjoying a baseball game, you can watch this, you can keep score, but you might also notice that even if you've got like the radio in one ear, in the park itself, you're going to hear a little something more about what's going on during the game.
Absolutely. And you, you play out, you're very in tune with the game too. Have you always been a baseball fan?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, hey, there's the pooch.
The dog has arrived. Yes. That's Mookie.
Hey. Oh, wow. Here you go.
Yeah. He has not headed west to follow the outfielder yet.
Well,
a lot of dogs named Mookie around, by the way. You would not believe it. Dog park. And will you get out of the way? Keep moving. There you go. Get on out of here. What was I saying? You really do pay attention to the game, though, and you play off certain moments. And, that's going to be a little bit tough. It's not just getting the next song ready, right?
It comes from having lots of experience doing it, and also the tremendous frustration of occasionally missing something that would have been good because you were not fast enough to make it happen.
Yeah.
The big story from, I can't remember if it was last year or 2018 was, well, long story short, a play from right field to the catcher to the third baseman that was a double play happened once in 2005 when I was the backup guy. And it was like Trot and Veritek and Lowell probably at that point. But having missed the opportunity to play Dolly Parton's 9 to 5 at that moment, I then sat and waited and, for whatever, 14 years. And then I saw the play starting to happen and was just like, oh, this is the moment, finally. And I have a whole screen that's just for, that kind of thing when it happens. So a lot of it has to do with prep. It's actually funny. So doing the radio during the week, sometimes people make requests and like can be tough in the middle of the show, depending on how it's going. And so the new thing is now that sort of channeling from the baseball world, people can make requests on themes. So they'll be like, give us songs about this or whatever. And I'll be like, oh, I can definitely find you 5 songs about this that you didn't realize were about whatever, staying home or whatever it happens to be that people want to hear. So managing to keep the context music skills fairly sharp while there is not sports.
I think I have to call my wife out. She gave you the courtesy laugh on the 9 to 5, but you have no idea what he's talking about there, do you?
Oh, I know that song.
I know you know the song, but why is it relevant to the...
Oh, I have no idea.
it's a super duper inside baseball joke. And they score the plays. Yeah.
See, that's my point, though. I mean, if you're a baseball person, you can completely relate to that. It's very fun.
Yeah. I got one in the 2013 World Series, too, that was like a Lester Ross Napoli play and managed to play ABC 1, 2, 3 right after it.
Nice.
But only because I had been waiting for 9 to 5 for at that point already 9 years, and I had all my numerology plays in one place. So
what is there? This is probably a silly question because you're a pros pro, but even the pros make mistakes. Have you ever like hit the wrong button and played the wrong song or done something?
Oh,
like
sure.
That does happen?
Oh, like a bunch of times. Yeah. I have, I mean, in the worst case scenario is usually just that you happen to be playing something and forget that there are words in it that shouldn't be there.
Oh.
All of my tracks are like stamped, but whether they're clean or explicit, or I think I use the tag phrasing for when things are perhaps a little bit, sexy for a ballpark, but okay for the radio, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, so there have been those moments and, along the way learning all 3 of these, because I learned football. I mean, everything I knew about football was about like guacamole and the couch. Like I did not know anything about it from a sport perspective. I still am learning, and it's my 6th year. And likewise, hockey, just figuring out just the events of what's going on. You have to figure out like what the dramatic tension is, but there are definitely plenty of moments where you just hit something thinking it's going to be great and you are dead wrong.
Yeah. So, what's the loudest building you've ever been a part of? Is it Fenway? Is it the Garden? Is it Gillette or
Copley Square Super Bowl parade?
Super Bowl parade. All right.
Yeah, those are incredible experiences. Yeah, I'm really glad when I did the first one of the most recent bunch of Super Bowl parades. I thought that I was just going to be on a flatbed and there would be music playing from the flatbed. I didn't realize that like the flatbeds are all connected and the music plays from all the flatbeds in the entire parade at the same time. And I was like, I found this out about 20 minutes before we were supposed to leave, which is great because I would not have slept the night before at all.
Yeah.
So I was just like, oh, this is 1 million people, 1 million actual people. Like in the same way that when I went from Fenway to Gillette and I was like, well, whatever. What's the difference between 40,000 and 80,000? You're like, that's another 40,000 people. That's the difference. It's much larger than you think. So
yeah, it does feel you're a huge part of that parade too. I mean, it's really not as much players talking as much as it is the music's kind of fueling those parades.
Yeah, it's a thing of sort of trying to trade on things that people remember from the season. That are anthems within whatever sport it is. And then, I mean, this last one, it is so preposterous that as one human being, I have DJ'd 4 sports championship parades.
Yeah.
Like the first one, terrified. The second one, mostly just cold and wet. And then after that, it started to be like, all right, well, I'm going to have an opinion about how to do this right, I think, now that we've learned some things. And I mean, getting Copley Square to sing The Gambler. Like, how fun is that?
There you go.
He knows the words. It's just like the stadium, but all the people together. It was great.
It is great. I have a bunch of moments I want to talk to you about, but I remember one conversation, probably the last time we talked. You said one of the cool things about doing the games at Fenway was the interaction with the players, which you actually get to do during like batting practice and stuff. And I think, did you tell me a story about Big Papi looking up one day and kind of making you shift gears or something?
Oh, sure. Sometime. I mean, that was. I have the weirdest relationship I've ever had with a coworker, with David Ortiz, in that I think we've met in person twice. And both times he's absolutely lovely and complimentary and great. And he says nice things about me, which is great. But, hilarious to just have him sort of at 5 stories down, turn around and be like, no, this is not what I want to hear right now. And I'm like, okay, switching gears. We'll find something else. I think I was probably helped by the fact that Ortiz and I are roughly the same age too. So I could kind of, guess from there. But I also, when I started the job, did not know what reggaeton was. Nor did actually, in fairness, much of the world. But
he was ahead of the curve on that.
It was before the time of Pitbull. And not that Pitbull's very reggae. Anyway, I won't go down a hole, but you understand what I'm saying. There was not a lot of Latin mainstream music.
I hear you. During that kind of same time frame, one moment that jumps out with me with just fan interaction. How did the Shane Victorino thing come about? Because the Bob Marley was just, I mean, talk about just a thing that, did you know that was going to happen, or how did that all play out?
Yes. So how it happens in steps is Shane Victorino really likes Bob Marley. I do not remember what his walk-up song was for the first half of the season, but it was also Bob Marley. And then sometime, whatever, it was like late July, he switched to Three Little Birds. And with with a walk-up song, it's perfect because you can you get to play it 3 times probably during a game, so people come to know it. But a little bit the secret of getting any stadium to sing along with itself is to make it so they can hear themselves, right? Like on a very basic level, it's the ba 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 and Sweet Caroline that you hear the other 40,000 people ba ba ba. With Three Little Birds, the fun part is just like I would just turn it down earlier and earlier for every at bat. So like the first time through, people would start singing along with it, and then you'd turn it down, and they'd you could almost hear them laugh nervously as they realized that like there were another 2,000 people also singing the song.
Yeah.
And then by the third at bat, the whole place is just like, yeah, everything is going to be all right. This has been a tough year. And I mean, that took a day and a half? Like, I can't really claim much responsibility for it, but
I remember, I think you either told this to me or I read you quoted in it, but I think you said that is your overall goal of every stadium crowd that you do is you want that whole crowd singing at some point, right? Is that, or am I getting it close to being right?
Well, yeah, the gist of it. It is, I mean, it's nice to hear people all sing together. I mean, that's the idea behind playing the national anthem before the game. And I think it's nice for people, particularly with whatever December version of the world being crazy and things being tough. It's nice to get people all singing together and not having to kind of worry about everything else that's going on. Obviously, and that's been true even as we are all now indoors. I mean, those videos of people in Italy and then sort of the reverse effect in New York of people singing out their windows, like that's great. That on a very basic human level makes you feel good.
Right.
And so getting to do that with everybody in the same place might be a while, but it's real nice when you can make it happen.
Absolutely. Again, we're joined here by TJ Connelly, the DJ for the Pats, the Bruins, the Red Sox, sometimes the Revolution, as you say. This is probably, if I had to guess, TJ, this is probably the question, if I had to guess, that you're most sick of in your entire life. It's going to get asked no matter where you go until it stops. But Sweet Caroline,
yep.
The debate about Sweet Caroline, people either love it or hate it. I find myself in an indifferent spot. I think it's cool to have everybody singing along. I think it's great when times are good. I am not a big fan of being down 10 runs and singing Sweet Caroline, which my wife knows. She's the one singing all the time. So now you have a good kind of small sample size here. These are the fights that we have in the house. Has there been talk about Sweet Caroline in those backdoor rooms?
I mean, no. if everybody who complains that we play Sweet Caroline when we're losing was paying as much attention to every other song I played, maybe. But I can't help but note that everybody's not exactly picking apart the words of everything, because if they were, I'd hear a lot more about it. Yeah, I mean, we talked about it in 2012, but it's not a debate. I mean, anybody who wants the debate can just go to the ballpark and sit there and scowl while 39,999 other people sing along with joys in their hearts. And if you want to grumble, you know, I don't know what your forum is. I'm sure the internet or sports radio has something for you, but who cares? Let people have fun.
It's so true. When did that start? Did that start on your watch when you were doing it, or was that preceding?
Nope.
I can't even remember.
I inherited that.
You did.
Yes.
Just
which is fine. You know, it's like you say, I answer the question a lot, but the truth of the matter is it's nice to get people singing together. And if I had to inherit something, I guess that's fine.
It's Springsteen's Born to Run. It's Prince's Purple Rain. It's going to be in the set list every night, right?
Yeah, exactly. It would be fun if Purple Rain was in the set list every night.
That is true.
That really have that kind of time available during a baseball game, but yeah.
That is true. There was one, what's your favorite moment that, like, maybe not necessarily a playoff game or something, but just some kind of quirky moment that happened, kind of caught you off guard a little bit, something from like years back, whatever. What's the moment that you kind of were surprised by?
Huh. That's a tough one. I didn't think about that a little bit. To be honest, my brain has been so much in the radio gear. I'm like, oh yeah, what does happen in stadiums? Oh, actually, I can think of one. In the Bruins playoffs last year, we had a whole discussion in the control room about Shania Twain. And I am exactly of an age and musical disposition that Shania Twain is not exactly directly up my alley. But in that conversation, people were like, I think people would really like it. Long story short, I ended up playing Man, I Feel Like a Woman during a timeout in a playoff game, like right at the end of the game. And it was great. Again, the whole place sings along to Shania Twain, and I was like, this is educational. Okay, great. And a little bit it became kind of a weird rallying moment, if that makes sense. Twitter had many opinions on the matter, but it was kind of a nice, I like those things when something I don't think is necessarily going to works wonderfully.
Yeah.
And people are super into it.
That went on for so long.
So that, I think, the Shania Twain, even though that ended up being something where I did it, I didn't expect how it was supposed to go, and then it was great. So that was wonderful.
That is a good example. That moment, I remember that because that was still going on coming back from the commercial break. I remember thinking to myself, how did this happen? Why is the crowd singing Shania Twain?
Yeah. I mean, it turned out to be a great moment to do it. And, you know, I always have a list of songs for any given sport that are kind of underneath glass, break in case of emergency, or like, don't just play this casually, really mean it when you play it.
Yeah.
And, you know, as we were starting to inch towards the end of the Bruins regular season, I was like, it's going to be Shania Twain time again soon. We played it once or twice, and it was great. I believe we are currently undefeated in Shania Twain games. I could be wrong.
Is that right? Wow.
Now that I've said it, it won't be true. But, yeah.
Well, hello to Shania. We hope she's doing well up in Canada or wherever she is. Is she Canada? Do you know?
I think she is Canadian.
I know.
Yeah, but I don't know if she lives up there.
But who knows if that's where she lives. Right?
I usually throw one question Sarah's way. Do you have one for TJ here since we've been off and rolling?
I'm not good at the questions. You know that.
You don't have to hedge.
But I am not a big sports fan, I will say, but I do enjoy going to the games. And I think that a big part of that is the music.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
I am doing my best to make it. Well, it's kind of I mean, you're not alone, right? Fenway Park is a tourist destination. Like, it is a thing to have gone to a game at Fenway Park in your life, which is great. And so it's fun to be able to both have something there for the diehard baseball fans, but then also just for the people who are like, this place is magical. I love it. So, yeah.
Is there we hear so much about the acoustics with Fenway concerts happening. Are there certain songs that like don't work or have all those problems kind of been ironed out from decades ago of things bouncing off walls? Are there songs that don't work inside Fenway?
The sound system is pretty well, is good. It's all set. Everything is even in most places. Occasionally from time to time an amp will fail and you might be on that day that your section sounds a little bit echoey, but they fix them pretty quickly. And then The only thing that doesn't really work in open air stadiums is live recordings of live music.
Yep.
It just sounds weird. I couldn't even put a finger on it to tell you exactly why it sounds weird, but it has a kind of echo or something where you're playing both the sound of the empty space into the empty space. If I was actually a sound engineer and not just someone who plays songs, I would probably have a great sound engineer name for that effect, but I don't. No.
That makes sense to me. I understand that.
Yeah.
I remember the actually it was Neil Diamond. He came back. Was that post marathon bombings or
Yep.
when he did that? And that I remember he was kind of struggling with the acoustics with the live mic.
2 days from now. Yeah.
Yeah, it must have been right after. And he was I know that was like a whole surprise thing and everything, but I remember he was trying to get the crowd to sing and like it was a little bit off. I remember where we were and I was like, Neil's kind of just getting through. He's trucking through this. Yeah.
It was a very spur of the moment occasion on many scores, but regardless, a nice thing for him to have done.
It was very nice. Do you know about all those things in advance? Is there any I know the Red Sox will try to surprise the crowd a lot, especially on those opening day festivities and all that. Mm-hmm. Is that when the pressure's really on? Like you got to hit all your timing, all your posts perfectly?
Yes, but at this point, having done a lot of them and ring ceremonies and a good example is the for pregame ceremony after the marathon bombing, like you get to the point where you're very good at hitting all the cues. Yeah. Like we have a very well-oiled system of 25 people who work really well together to make, these moments happen for people. So we have scripts and everything. I mean, we know all that ahead of time. I did not know about Neil Diamond until maybe the fourth inning.
Yeah.
That was a surprise to everyone. So that was, yeah. But by that point in the day, we had already had the pregame and it was like, well, we'll just figure it out. So.
That is interesting. And TJ Connelly joining us here. You got the coffee mug there? We do a little coffee cup moment here.
Sure. I'm glad to be part of a coffee cup moment. What are we doing?
Okay, what do you got? Dunkin' Donuts for you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't mean to endorse necessarily. It just happens to be.
She already said Starbucks. She already said Starbucks once today. So now we're fair and balanced. I got the A for my full name, Andrew. It's a wedding gift. So.
Oh, lovely.
So there you go. We're all good. How about a little bit of background? Because everybody knows so much about the professional career, but how did you get to this unique position of the DJ of Boston, pretty much?
Well, I started off in improv comedy, actually, at Improv Asylum in the North End, where after during going through the training center, they needed someone. I had done theater tech before and was doing a DJ night at a bar in Cambridge. And they said, hey, you know about lights and music. Would you like to help out and try and do this thing, which would also be good training for improv? And I said, okay, without knowing that was where the next 20 years of my life were going to go.
No kidding.
Yeah, I mean, in many ways, it's kind of funny, but sports are, in those days, it was so much harder. There was not really, there wasn't an iTunes music store.
Yeah.
So when it came, or Spotify or anything else. So I just would spend all day on Saturdays burning CDs full of songs in case I would need them that night. And I had just spools of music. And similarly, just trying to play stuff that's situationally appropriate and keeps the crowd into it.
So you got a couple racks and you're literally switching CDs in and out.
Yeah, just 2 decks of the CD player. And I got good at it by the end. We used to have a game in one of our shows. We had a midnight drinking game, hey, end of the week show. And they would play a game which would just be about trying to stump me. Do you have a song about X? And I would be yeah, I'll find a thing. And then if they stumped me, someone had to finish a beer, I'm sure. I don't know. But yeah, and now it's much simpler. But the spirit of preparation and anticipation that I learned there has sort of guided throughout. And then, sorry.
Improv comedy too. We're big on this. Have you seen this? Comedians in cars getting coffee. Do I have it right on the first?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, the Seinfeld show. That's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. But I hear those stories of the how nerve-wracking that is, especially for all these big time guys in their early days. How scary that was.
Sure.
Is that the most intimidating thing in the world? Going up on stage trying to make a room of people laugh.
So I've only done stand-up a handful of times, but I will tell you that one of the longest times of my entire life was I did stand up for the first time at Paparelli's night in New York a million years ago. And the time between him saying TJ Connelly and me walking up to the stage and getting the microphone and speaking a word was roughly 19 years. It was a toil across deserts to just terrified to do that. But I mean, you get used to it like anything else. You know, it's yeah, it's been, I'll tell you one of the big things actually with the show I'm doing during this COVID crisis has been trying to figure out how to strike the right notes in terms of the music. Because, you know, now there's a ton of people listening and you want to be sort of uplifting to some degree, but then also not fake, you know, like I'm not just going to be saccharine the entire time. Like, hey, everybody, I'm having a tough day and you might be too. Like, we're all here and there having some pretty tough days. Let's try and, you know, encompass that and have something that's there for that emotionally. But then also every Friday we just play a big stupid dance party. Yeah. And you can just mirth your way into the weekend to the best of your ability. So it's a lot of fun.
Promote the show a little bit. Where can people find it?
It is at uncertain.fm. The show is called Uncertain Times, which was originally about when we are, and then also not doing the show for a specific amount of time. But as it has kind of taken off, it's now starts at 10 a.m. Eastern, goes usually till 1 or 2, and then there's a whole replay at 2 o'clock for the West Coast. Wow. Yeah, so it's been a hell of a project to do by myself in my basement in the last 5 weeks. But, you know, it's good to have a thing to do, and it's exciting. And, you know, people are into it. So as long as they're here, they're there, I'll be here.
So this kind of happened naturally. I see you having to multitask a little bit here. I think you're going to have a morning show and then doing baseball games at night when the world gets back to normal. That
would be very exciting. I think that might actually work out pretty well. It's funny. I did college radio for 5 years before this. And then I have the questionable honor of being the last person hired by WFNX.
Wow, no kidding.
Yes, before it was sold. And I got to do, as a result, the last night that was ever a night shift on WFNX. They had been playing, because all the staff was already gone by that point, and the computer was just playing like Group Love on a loop or whatever. Yeah. For 2 months. And I was like, this is like the most formative musical influence in my life. Like, it can't go out like that. And so I went in at 7, really only having done like, here's a good example. You want to talk about something terrifying to do. I went in there with some CDs and having done like about 3 hours of radio in my entire life, and got on for the last night of WFNX, my dream station I've been listening to my whole life. And I went freeform for 5.5 hours. And then I deleted half of the overnight content and programmed a whole nother show until 3 a.m. that I didn't talk during. And that was terrifying and thrilling and amazing, but like also just trying to on the fly encapsulate all of that. I originally was going to go 4 hours, and then apparently the answer was 8. Wow. Yeah, it was an incredible experience. I'm lucky that someone actually recorded it, which I didn't even have the forethought to do. So it's great to listen to now, both from a perspective of being a little more experienced in doing radio. I mean, there's literally a point where, you know, from radio, I didn't talk for like 45 minutes. Like, I was busy ripping CDs to put them into the computer that played the music, and was just like trying to get that done, and came back and was like, oh, I apparently played roughly 10 songs since last time we spoke. Hold on, let me tell you all about them. Huh.
There is somebody here manning the station.
Yeah. Well, but at that point, you know, it's over but not over. And
yeah. Do you remember the last song you played?
I do. It was actually Sonic Youth, The Diamond Sea, which is notable for the fact that it's 25 minutes long.
Wow.
And there are two things about. First off, I'm fairly certain I am the last person to ever play that song on commercial radio. But then on top of that, the song, if you're familiar and if you're not, go ahead and look it up. But it's a very good end of things kind of song. But there's a single version that's like 5 minutes, and then like the big album version is 25. And I still remember there was like a Facebook thread where people were all talking about the show as it was going on. and someone posted like, "Oh my God, is he playing the whole thing?" And then there's like another comment from 10 minutes later that's like, "Well, since it's still on, I'm going with yes." Yeah.
That's right. The 25 minutes is not made for radio, is it? Jeez.
Well, it's made for the last night of a radio station. Yeah. Even now, even on the college station and stuff like that, I really save that one. Every once in a while, I'll do like a WFNX tribute show that's like, if you enjoyed WFNX, this is the 3 hours for you. But even in those cases, I only include that once or twice, even the short version.
What a cool memory that is. Again, TJ Connelly joining us here. My name is Drew Moholland. This is my wife, Sarah Conway. What is the college background again? Did you, what radio station?
I did not attend college.
Just did the radio.
Yes. Yeah.
How did that happen?
I was busy running a video store, and then the internet happened. And it's kind of funny, actually, like doing a streaming radio station right now is this weird matrix of all of my skills between being a radio person and also someone who knows like 4 programming languages and has a sort of general idea of how, audio and tech is supposed to work. Yeah, it's wild. It's, and well, the good example is, and for having been a former video store person, occasionally, like last Thursday, we did a show that was 3 hours long that was all songs from movie soundtracks.
Wow.
So it's really all together in that place. But having that tech background, I sort of went from video store to the internet, no stops. It was the late 90s, right place, right time, and then suddenly not the right place anymore.
Yeah.
When the .com went boom. So.
Well, I mean, as you're, this is the place where you create so much magic here in your basement, I take it. This is where all these shows are coming out of right now?
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
this is it.
It really is. It's crazy to think about, but we think about all our radio friends who have been furloughed or maybe worse than that in this. It's a tough time for the business, but really it has sparked all these sort of different projects. And a guy like you with all these multiple talents can really do something with it, the podcast world and just producing your own thing. And let's see what happens with it.
Yeah, it's one of those things, I think, where anybody who knows anything about radio has probably thought in their life, oh, I guess I could do a podcast. That actually sounds easier.
Yeah.
And then doing it live gives it that magical radio connection where it's just you and the person you're listening to, which, I don't know where exactly you plan to air this portion of the program, but I will say it is a shame that the industry seems to have devalued the human connection of late.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I mean, when you were talking about looping music, I mean, that's what you're getting a lot of these nights right now. It's just robots playing things. So, well,
it's funny. Doing 8 hours of radio every day, most people don't realize that most of the commercial stations have a robot doing that for them largely.
Yeah.
That is like pre-programmed. And I'm like, no, I'm actually picking all these in order. Like I'm making a mixtape every night to play the next day.
Yeah.
And some of it changes on the fly, but yeah, anyhow. I digress. I would go down a rabbit hole there if you let
me. I bet you could. Yeah. When you have all that gap, all that space to fill on the radio, I think even you are probably like, wow, how many 5 hours of radio? That seems like a long time for me to talk, even with music. It depends. I guess it depends. I mean, I remember I had a test. I was doing a high school hockey game years back, calling play-by-play when local stations were still kind of around. I'm not sure how many great ones are covering the high school hockey on a daily basis these days, but this one does a little bit. But back in the day, they were doing games all the time. And I remember the very first game. I hadn't been on the air since college, and I was jumping back on. All right, here we go, all set up for a high school hockey game. Zamboni breaks down pre-game. They have to wait. They have to wait 2.5 hours. I'm not kidding.
Oh no!
They would not start this game. I'm like, they're high school kids. You kidding me? They can't deal. Yeah, you get the dog. They can't deal with some choppy ice. Are you kidding me? Let's get out there and play. No. Yeah. We wait for fresh ice. They brought in a new Zamboni from I don't even know. I don't even know where you get next.
Yeah. Nobody has an extra Zamboni.
Oh, we're up there talking. I got my partner going, will you go down and see what's going on? He leaves. I'm just up there talking. So I remember my boss coming back to me and saying, you know what? This is the first time we've had you on for us. And I have complete trust now after having to stall for 2.5 hours in a hockey rink. So,
yeah. Well, I hear you. Coming from a place of sports that sometimes delay themselves.
Yeah.
That can be real tough.
Oh, a rain delay, man. What do you do? That's your show, rain delays.
Yeah, I go back and forth with Josh, the organist, and It's funny. At some point, somebody compared this entire radio show to just being the longest rain delay ever. Which
did you take that as a compliment? Because it's kind of a compliment.
I'm not sure. Yes, if it is, then I'll take it that way and not think too hard about it. Yeah, I mean, rain delays. I will say one thing that was a lot of fun when we were getting ready. We didn't
outside. Dogs going outside.
Yeah, it's fun, I think, for the fact that a rain delay at Fenway, you get to sort of use the big speakers to play things you might not otherwise, like, for example, All of Purple Rain. But we tend to end the rain delays with like a giant dance party anyway. And the people who remain through all of that and then want to have a dance party in a wet baseball park, I mean, it's a real good time.
Yeah.
I don't know what leads them to make those decisions, but I love them for it.
That is a diehard's diehard when you can wait out a long rain delay, right? Man.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've done it in the stands. You know, I remember I had a friend who applied for a credit card just to get a towel.
I think I've done that before in my life.
I was like, oh, yeah.
Back in the Bruins were always doing that. I think I may not have quite realized what I was signing up for. We could just cancel this tomorrow. And then I remember it being a real pain.
Right. Probably.
I guess that's how they get you.
Mm-hmm.
What is the is it Fenway or is it the one of the other? Are they all great in their own way? What's the most fun one to do?
They're all, everything is its own thing in different ways. I, of late, I've really been enjoying hockey a lot because there's a lot of learning there.
It's a lot of winning too.
Which is always nice.
Yeah.
Helps, keeps things positive. But the weird thing is actually the hockey is the sport that is most like doing improv in a basement and playing songs in between things, just because it's sort of, there's no structure. Yeah. Like there's tons of dramatic tension, but it's just play, whistle, play, whistle. And it's not like football where you're like trying to sprint and do a jigsaw puzzle and fit things into clock time and be like, okay, in 6 seconds, you're going to need something that's 12 seconds long that makes everyone want to scream for blood. You're like, great, I'll find that. So I've really been enjoying the hockey, just for the figuring out how it works and the freedom to try stuff out. And, it's a good time.
And you might get like you might get the quick back-to-back whistles, but in general, you have like a little bit of flow of play to kind of think about what you might want to do. Whereas in baseball, you're kind of, I know you have the songs picked for each batter, but you're kind of firing every at bat. That people say baseball's slow sometimes. For you, it's going to feel like you're always moving. Next batter.
When the team is doing well, yes. When the team is on a run, then it is just next batter, hit song, pitching visit, next batter, etc. And you're really just pumping it up. And then like replay review, somehow keep the energy up during that.
Yes.
But for hockey, I think it's just that, the crowd is engaged the entire time.
Yeah.
Like in baseball, people will go and get a beer when the other team is batting or something like that. And they come back and what have you. But, the crowd is just with you all the way through. And likewise, if you just play a whistle song that doesn't work at all, the next time you play one that does work and it's fine. So it's nice.
So you gave us the great 9 to 5 story. What's the best replay? Are you pretty much tapping into all the waiting songs, Tom Petty, that sort of thing?
I have a huge library of those because pitching visits.
Yeah.
I'm pretty well known for playing Fugazi's Waiting Room in that situation, just because it's not something you would necessarily expect to hear in a sporting arena. But my big thing now for replay reviews is playing one with the notion that it is like the officials who are looking at a thing. And so like I'll play the Inspector Gadget theme because this is a detective figuring out the things with the help of the robot, if you will. And then people all know that. I'll play the theme from Night Court. I got a lot of love from a younger set for playing the lobby waiting music for Fortnite, which is just what you sit there and you wait. Everybody stands around and waits to play.
Okay.
Same thing with a replay review, and then from there, into the stuff, give it to me or the song remains the same or whatever, just trying to comment on how the replay is looking on the board. But yeah. And then in those cases, I also just become entirely superstitious. I'm like, you don't want to push it too hard in the either direction and suddenly have the ump be, the ump is not going to react to the music. Yeah. But you feel bad when you played one that was like, In baseball, I might play like invisible touch if a guy missed a tag,
Yeah.
and then they say that it's a tag, and you're like, come on, like
You got it right. I feel bad.
I had a thing that was whatever.
So have you been told at all? I'm thinking, because you know what they're saying when these sports come back, that a lot of these games are going to be played in empty stadiums and empty arenas.
Yeah.
I would think you are the essential personnel, though, that still you need to be there to pump some life into that empty place, right?
In the before time, I was told that if that was where hockey went, then yes, I would still be there.
Okay.
I haven't talked to anybody else about how it will work. I assume, sorry, excuse me a second.
Yep.
Doing a bad job of only drinking coffee and not water.
Yes. Well, you're a busy man. You've got all these hours of shows already under your belt today.
Well, it's funny, and I'm doing a special tonight because I'm trying out some new stuff, and I haven't really done any night shows yet, so I'm doing that. But so I'm getting ready for that. But it's also like there's so much grind during the week that this is the time I get to like catch up on things, and like you know, the whole show is on Patreon, and I have to like write thank you notes to people who are like, yes, I will sponsor you in this time, and I'm like, oh, thank you for doing that, you know. And,
part of the thank you note. Very nice.
Right. Well, I mean, I think you should, right?
Yeah,
like if somebody's that into what you were saying. What were we were just talking about?
These stadiums coming back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen. When we were going into all of this, I was like, well, there's definitely plenty of things that will be perhaps amusing to play in empty places, like I Think We're Alone Now or something like that.
Yeah.
As things are more serious, you know, it has had a final effect for a lot of people. Maybe we're just going to figure out a way to make it exciting and not maybe be as funny about it. Because it's just going to be uncomfortable and weird. I actually was thinking if we do come back, I'm going to reach out to the DJ in Baltimore for the Orioles because he had to do that game because of the rioting that had no fans and just be like, you know, it's only one. It'll be interesting. It'll be a whole different thing because obviously I'm not going to be getting anybody to sing along. Yeah. Unless the players are feeling somehow rallied in that moment, which seems unlikely. But
I think I saw in Japan, one of the Japanese leagues is back and they had like a walk-off home run last week and they, you know, pumped in. It was horns and, you know, fake fan cheer and stuff. And it was weird, but it was kind of like, I get it, you know?
Yeah. I feel like if there's any crowd noise that's going to happen, it'll probably happen at a TV layer.
Yeah.
Like we're not going to do that live in the place. You know, I mean, I think we'd still play a home run song and we'll definitely still play the goal horn and the goal song and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it will be interesting to see, you know, if there's any other content that happens during TV timeouts. You know, I mean, normally there are other things that go on for the video and all that. And there's nobody there to see it except the players. I don't know. Maybe it's just going to be music in between, in which case that'll be a whole nother challenge. But, you know, here I am keeping the context skills as sharp as I can via the magic of basement radio. So
we'll do and now, since I know you got a busy night ahead of you, I'll start to wrap it up with you. But one thing I did want to mention was we kind of talked about how I've tweeted at you during games before, and I'll watch you sometimes respond to people, which I don't know how you have time for that. You're very good at multitasking up there, but I mean, you will have, maybe this is the improv thing, but you'll have witty comments back at somebody if there's a really bad suggestion in a nice way. You'll kind of embarrass them sometimes, which is really funny.
A little fun. Yeah.
All in good fun.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's very like people request shipping up to Boston. And I'm like, that'll probably come at the right moment if it's supposed to happen. Like, I appreciate that you want to hear it too, but it's not exactly my choice.
That is too fun. Baseball every single night. Hockey, a few times a week, you know, Patriots a little less, but does it ever become a grind? Does it ever feel like a grind up there? Or are you realizing now maybe that you miss it so much?
You know, like any good dream job, most of the days it is a dream. Sometimes it is a job.
Yeah.
Particularly when you get to like an 8-game homestand. And most of the people who have worked every game of that homestand are mostly zombies by about day 6, as you just let it all go that way. But, you know, it is important in those moments to remember where you are and what you're doing and be grateful for that. Even if in a particular moment you might be grumpy and then be like, hold on, look around you. Okay. Deep breath, move on.
Yeah, it's
So.
a very good perspective. Well, TJ, this has been a lot of fun, man. Why don't you tell people one more time where they can find your show here and how they can keep in touch with you during this whole pandemic?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Senator John, and the radio show airs every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern, and then again at 11 a.m. Pacific. Uncertain.fm. The show is called Uncertain Times, and it is the way that we are paying for rent and coffee in the time of no sports.
Cheers to that, man. This was a pleasure. We had a lot of fun. Sarah had to leave for a second because of the dog. You good with questions, Sarah?
Driving me crazy. No, that was very interesting, though, the part of it that I got to be here for.
Cool.
There you go. You roped her in there. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes. We really appreciate it. It was fun.
Cool. All right. Take care, you all.
Good. Stay safe. All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. TJ Connelly, the DJ for the Red Sox, the Patriots, the Bruins, Revolution sometimes, and he's got his own show there going through this pandemic. Kind of a man of many hats. That was cool, huh?
Very cool. I never talked to him before, but I know you've interviewed him before, right?
Yes, he has. I've talked to him a few times over the years, but never in this form, never on the TV and the stream. So it's nice to actually see his face. Usually it's over the phone. So that was fun with TJ Connelly. I hope you all enjoyed that. Some good stories from the stadiums and Fenway and the Garden and Gillette and all that stuff. And parades, man, he's done it all. How spoiled is that? 4 parades for championships. Not many people can say that. TJ Connelly. Mookie, want to say goodbye? You were a big part of the show today.
He just is so deprived of attention.
My goodness. The dogs.
He's
the
sitting
dogs
right here on the table.
Dogs are getting stir crazy. Folks, it was a pleasure. Thank you. Big thanks again to TJ Connelly. My name's Drew Moholland. Sarah Conway. We'll see you next time. Live from Drew's house here in the kitchen. We're having a blast with it. Bye-bye now. Stay safe.